Hey, and welcome to the PDHPE and CAFS podcast. Today you're with me, Kel Bell, and today we're going to talk about some really simple strategies that I've used for probably the last 10 or so years around feedback. So we're going to talk about why the win feedback strategy actually works. So strap in. This is really timely because at the time of recording, many of our teachers are deep in marking. There's lots going on. We have trials either just finished or just about to be tackled by our Year 12 students. And then after that, we have our Year 11 cohorts tackling their PDHP and CAFS exams, and obviously next year. And for as long as that we're assessing the kids via exams or assessment, this is a really simple strategy for you to implement in your classroom literally tomorrow. And it kind of stemmed, I suppose, I don't kind of have like a timeline, you know, how you create these strategies with your kids and go, okay, well, that might be a good idea. But I reckon probably about 10 years ago, I started to give the kids like just 3 areas. So what you've done well, like I'm going to tell you what you've done well, what you can kind of do to improve, and things that you can kind of then go, okay, well, you know, this is what I need to do. And I think it kind of maybe stemmed from parent-teacher night, because often, you know, the kids would come in and I would see a lot of teachers visually addressing the parents, but not having a conversation with the student. So I think it probably started from that. So as a fresh-faced 20-something-year-old, no one really gave me, direct feedback about what I was doing in my parent-teacher night. So I would come up and say, I would stand up out of my chair because most of it's sitting down. I think it's a nice gesture to actually stand up and introduce yourself. I would say, hi, my name's Kelly, shake their hand. I'm Jessica's PDHPE teacher, or I'm Justine's CAFS teacher or past teacher, whatever it was. Really lovely to meet you. And then I would have a conversation. I would say, hey, Jess, like, how do you think you're going in CAFS? Or whatever it was, whatever subject. How do you think you're going in our course? Like, what are you liking about it? What do you think you've done well? What are some things that you need to do to improve? And then we'd have a conversation backwards and forwards. And we would kind of ask that, you know, have a convo about what they've done well and what they can do to improve. For the students, that was in parent-teacher night. And then I would finally say to the parent, hey, you know, Mrs. Brown, do you have any questions? And they say, oh, no, not really. You've kind of addressed everything. Then instead I would stand up again and say, oh, thanks so much. It was lovely to meet you. Let me know, you know, whatever, if you have any other questions, whatever it was. So I reckon my win feedback strategy kind of stemmed from back in those days. As you evolve as a teacher and you gain more confidence, you kind of, implement things and do things a bit differently. And I think for me, I loved parent-student teacher night because I would give the kids feedback on what they've done well. Here's what you've done well. What do you think you could do to improve? Put it back on them. And then, okay, as a result of that, here are some things that I think that you could do to improve. What do you reckon? So I then formulated this strategy. It was probably more when I left the classroom, maybe at the end, actually. I don't know. Timeline's blurry. You know what it's like. So I then kind of said, well, I need an acronym as a CAFS teacher. We're very much big on acronyms. You know that. So I created an acronym to help you. And for me, I still like to, handwrite stuff, and I'm kind of deep in thinking. So I had lots of scraps of paper, scribbled a few things out. And then I kind of fell on what they've done well, improvements to be made. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the next step? I'm like, well, they have to take action on that. They have to do something about it. I'm like, well, and necessary actions to improve. So then win feedback evolved from that. So win feedback is a really simple but really practical, effective strategy for us to give the kids feedback, but also for the kids to give feedback to each other. So win stands for what they've done well, or what you've done well. Like if you're putting it back on the kids, what have you done well? Like, what are the positives? Improvements to be made. what do you think you need to do to improve? Like, what are some areas that you really struggled with that you might kind of, like to move forward on? Or was there something that you found a bit tricky? Or maybe your study or your preparation before the assessment, was it really, what was hard about it? And then N is necessary actions to improve. So what are you going to do about it? Like, what are you actually going to do? You've spoken about it, you're talking about it, but you actually need to take action on your areas for improvement. So of course, then that evolved over time. When I came to our senior campus that I worked at on the Central Coast, I then said, look, I use this strategy called win feedback. It's really simple. It's 3 steps. What the kids have done well, they need to write down what they can do to improve, and sometimes it's a bit of both, and then necessary actions to improve. And that necessary actions, I have always made it about the kids. What do you need to do? Like, I've told you what you need to do, what you've done well. I've kind of given you hints as to what areas are for improvement. You need to take that action. Like, I can't do it for you. I'm your teacher, but I'm not the learner. I'm not there sitting in my HSC. I'm not doing my trials. I'm not doing the assessment tasks or doing the in-class tasks. You're doing it. You actually need to be accountable for this. So we then kind of, so I introduced it to the faculty, and the faculty that I worked with, if you haven't heard my story, weren't that accommodating and thought a lot of the things I was teaching them were from the Catholic system. I said, no, this is like, we should be giving the kids effective feedback. And then they said, oh, well, it's from Sydney. That's a Sydney thing. No, it's not. Like, we need to give the kids effective feedback. We can't just give ticks and crosses or a mark on their page. We need to show them. We need to give them direct feedback about what they're doing well so they can continue to do that. Areas for improvement so they can kind of learn from their mistakes or work on those challenges. And then, okay, actions. What actions are you going to take to actually improve and continue in your learning journey? So once we kind of, spent a bit of time, I educated my classes. I then worked with my PDHPE faculty, which are a mix of one male, lots of females who were quite negative, and a lot further on in their journey. So trying to teach them a new skill was a little bit tricky. There was a bit of backlash, but we ended up getting there. So we then said we're going to put at the bottom of each assessment task, like each marking guideline, just WIN. And then, we taught the kids what win stood for. And then so we would kind of write on there, okay, this is what they can do to improve. What they've done well, improvements, and then they had to fill out the necessary actions part. Anyway, that kind of evolved. That worked really well. We then incorporated that with our Pink for Positive and Green for Growth pens. So things were kind of going along quite swimmingly. And then I heard from what faculty was, I think the HESI faculty were doing this really cool feedback form where the kids got their mark, their rank, their cumulative rank. This is for HSC stuff in year 11. That type of thing, like on a form, they had to reflect on it. And I said, well, let's do the same sort of thing, but let's include our win feedback for the kids to actually engage with that. So then it was a bit of a spreadsheet, bit of a malmerge. It did take a long time, but it imported data from our SM marks. If you've used SM marks before, a bit old school, but SM marks into the spreadsheet. And then that spat out, this form in an Excel spreadsheet, and the kids got their marks, they got their rank, they got their cumulative rank, they got the percentages, and then we had this section for win feedback. So, we had to write down, or even they had to write down, I think, maybe what they have done well, improvements to be made, and necessary actions to improve. We then aligned to the outcomes. It was this big mammoth process, but it was really effective because the kids finally engaged with their results. They finally engaged with their marks. Instead of seeing it like an assessment task in a bin, or, you might give them like a sheet for their marks back and they kind of scrunch it up or just shove it in their book, they actually engage with it. And then they set goals based on, how they went, and then win feedback. So win feedback is really, really effective. like I've said, I have been using Win Feedback for a really long time. And when I first left the classroom back in 2020, in July, after being very burnt out, being in a really toxic school, having not very supportive staff, I went, well, okay, I can keep all these ideas to myself, or I can share them with PDHPE, CAFS, and now HMS teachers across New South Wales. So Win Feedback, I would absolutely love for you to give it a go. It's really simple. You can do that in a lot of ways. You can put like little boxes at the end of your marking guidelines. You can use Post-it notes. So I've done Post-it notes before with like the pink for positive, green for growth strategy. I've done like pink Post-it note. You can quickly write down what you've done well. Green Post-it note, improvements to be made, like green for growth, areas for improvement. And then in yellow, necessary actions to improve on a yellow Post-it note. You could even just quickly get the kids to do a highlighter, like green, and they might write W, like what I've done well. They might then highlight, do a dash, pink, and then a dash in green. Here's what I need to do to improve, and necessary actions to make those improvements. You could do it lots of different ways. You could maybe have WIN somewhere on your board, and you might get the kids to write on a note, like a Post-it note or a little something, or even like a big sheet of butcher's paper, and then they could write down that, okay, this is what I've done well, this is improvements to be made, and these are necessary actions. So looking at different ways to give the kids, feedback on what they've done well, improvements to be made, and then necessary actions. So using colour has always been a good one. Using the coding, the WIN, at the end of an assessment task. So in the PDHPE faculty, it didn't matter if you were in a non-ATAR course like SLR or EC, or if you were on a HSC pattern of study, you still had to engage with the Win Feedback strategy. And I've taught this strategy to thousands of teachers now across New South Wales in our CAFS and our HMS memberships. And look, people, it's just part of our language. Oh, Win Feedback. Yeah, I gave them Win Feedback. And it's really, really simple. I think sometimes we complicate the way we give kids feedback. We write all over their page, or we then, give them a massive essay, or we type a whole whole thing of notes up. But if you can quickly show them, what they've done well, one sentence or a couple of points, improvements to be made, necessary actions to improve is up to them. And then that's really simple, really effective, really straightforward. I think when I was at the school on the coast, I then got stamps made up for our faculty, and it was Win Feedback, which is like W, kind of showed them like W, I said Win Feedback, and the W, the I, the N, we stamped the kids' assessment task or their marking guidelines, and we just quickly wrote in that space, like, what they've done well, improvements to be made, and then they had to fill out the necessary actions part. So look, I'd love for you to give it a go. Let us know how you, how you find it. You might like to try it with your K-6 kids, see what they think. You can use like symbols and colours and all different things to help the kids see visually, like some of these things. But, of course, with assessment tasks, with in-class tasks, getting the kids to engage with their marks, engage with their assessments, rather than just seeing them in the bin, getting the kids to actually say, well, this is what I've done well, in my whole assessment, or for that particular section or question. Here are some improvements that I think I need to make. Look, I need to focus on multiple choice. Obviously, I've only got 15. I've still got 5 marks to get to that full marks. I need to work on that. Or maybe for multiple choice, I struggle with some data questions, like some graphs and stuff. Or my option for CAFS might be something that's, bringing me down. And here's what I'm going to do about it. So Win Feedback is really simple, yet effective. If you would love to get a PDF to help you with this strategy, the learnnet.com/feedback is where you can go. I provide some other feedback strategies, but very simple, very effective, very efficient, to make your life so much easier, to cut down on your, your marking time and your feedback time. So Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear how you've used win feedback, how the kids have responded. Have you used colours or post-it notes? Let us know. You can come over to Instagram, my favourite place to hang out on social media, not in general. kellybell.coach is where you can come. And if you've loved these last few episodes that we've been sharing about, simple strategies for use in your classroom as a busy PDHPE, CAFS and HMS teacher, I'd love your feedback, of course, so we can continue to bring you really practical episodes, really, bite-sized chunks of things that you can implement in your classroom. So again, if you want a PDF of win feedback, head to thelearnnet.com/feedback to grab that. But again, let me know how you go and let me know how you tackle your trials in the coming weeks and how you're going to give feedback to your kids so they can then move forward in their learning. All right, have the most amazing week. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.